Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to take some, really fascinating source material and pull out the insights that matter most for you. Today, we're diving into something that sounds simple unity, but we're not just talking about, playing nice. We're exploring unity as something deeper, almost a tangible force described in ancient texts. And it has some surprisingly real effects on our lives. Our main source today is a sermon from Reverend Dr. Eric Peters called The Blessing of the Corporate Anointing. It focuses mainly on Psalm 133, just 3 short verses. So our mission, to unpack what this corporate anointing thing is really about, this idea of shared empowerment. We want to look at how vividly unity is described there and what it means for you. Okay, let's unpack this. What if unity isn't just a vague aspiration, but a powerful, almost mystical force described in ancient texts with real-world effects on our lives and communities?
It really is a compelling way to frame it, isn't it?
Yeah.
This text takes unity beyond just an ideal. It makes it, foundational for collective strength, for flourishing. It really pushes us past just surface agreement.
Absolutely. And it kicks off right in Psalm 133, verse 1. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. What jumps out at me right away isn't just unity, but that word dwell. It makes it sound like unity is less a feeling and more, almost a place we live in. What does that mean? Unity as a place?
Yeah, it's definitely more than just sharing the same postcode. Reverend Dr. Peters points out that dwell here means a place of constant mutual abode. Think of it like really, truly residing together, being deeply rooted. It's miles away from just, putting up with each other. And notice it says brethren. That points to individuals who are bound by something foundational, a shared heritage, not just people who happen to be in the same room. It's a connection, as the source puts it, created by forces outside of my own will and decision. There's this implied deep kinship with reciprocal actions.
So it's not casual?
Not at all. It's a committed community. And the psalm says this state is good and pleasant. It suggests this is actually a natural, harmonious way for us to be.
Yeah. So inhabiting a shared purpose, a collective identity, much more than just sharing a physical space. That's quite a shift. It makes unity sound like this active, ongoing thing we build. It makes you wonder, how many of our communities, work, neighborhoods, even families really reach that level of abode.
Exactly. It really asks us, doesn't it? How often do we see unity as some kind of destination we hope to arrive at, or maybe a condition we're waiting for, instead of, like you said, an active abode we have to intentionally build and maintain? Yeah. It demands a different perspective.
And this is where, for me, it gets really interesting, because the psalm shifts gears pretty quickly from unity as this dwelling place to these incredibly vivid metaphors. They describe its tangible effects. The first one, verse 2, unity is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garments. I mean, wow, such a striking image. What's the deal with Aaron's anointing here? How does that help us understand unity?
Well, this image takes us right back to the anointing of Aaron, the very first high priest in ancient Israel. That was a deeply sacred act. It symbolized his consecration, his empowerment for that huge leadership role. Reverend Dr. Peters explains it was a complete anointing that covered his entire being.
Complete, yeah.
Not just a dab, a total saturation. Picture it. This rich, fragrant oil poured on his head, flowing down his beard, soaking all the way down to the edges of his robes.
That idea of saturation, it's powerful. It implies an effect that really permeates everything, leaves nothing untouched.
Precisely. And this wasn't just any old oil. It was precious ointment, specifically crafted, highly valuable. The sermon points out it had this sweet aroma that radiated from Aaron. So applying this to unity means unity isn't just some internal feeling. It emanates. It gives off an aroma that attracts the world, drawing people in, positively influencing everything around it.
And Reverend Dr. Peters really drives home how sacred this metaphor is with that quote from Charles Spurgeon. Spurgeon said, "What a sacred thing must brotherly love be when it can be likened to an oil which must never be poured on any man but on the Lord's high priest alone." That really hits you, doesn't it? It puts this kind of unity on a whole different level. It's not common.
Indeed. And this leads to a crucial point Reverend Dr. Peters makes. There is no independent personal anointing, but it is given by God, intended to benefit the entire body. This isn't about one person's spiritual highlight reel or some private blessing. It's collective, a shared empowerment meant for the whole community, a communal gift, fundamentally.
Okay, so if this corporate anointing isn't individualistic, but it's this shared blessing that flows down and covers everyone, what does this ancient idea mean for us today in any group we're part of?
Well, the sermon pulls out several pretty profound implications about what this kind of unity enables. First, it says, Dwelling together must transcend physical presence and include spiritual purpose. Think about Acts 2.1, the early believers. They weren't just physically together. They were united in this singular driving purpose. That kind of deep alignment is key for this anointing.
That's a really good point. It's not just about showing up physically, but showing up for something together.
Exactly. Second point. Spiritual unity is accomplished when spiritual order is achieved. It's not about messy chaos. It's about a kind of structured harmony. It reminds me of that line in 1 Corinthians, let all things be done decently and in order, like a well-run orchestra. Every instrument has its part, played in coordination. That order allows the unity to work.
Right, so it's not squashing individuality, but maybe harmonizing it for something bigger. I can definitely see that in, say, a team environment, sports, or business.
Precisely. And third, this spiritual unity facilitates the flow of God's anointing. Unity is the channel, the conduit. Without that unity and order, the collective power can't really flow freely. Fourth, the corporate anointing impacts the head first before it flows to the rest. And the head isn't just one person. It's described as a number of gifts and competencies working together for the leadership of the body.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, so effective, unified leadership is critical for that flow to even begin. It's like the oil starting right at Aaron's head.
So leadership in this context isn't a one-person show. It's a team effort, a blend of different talents working in harmony to receive and then pass on this blessing to everyone else.
That's exactly it. And finally, Reverend Dr. Peters emphasizes that the anointing is an adequate measure to affect the entire body. It's thorough. It reaches everyone from the head down to the skirts of his garments. Nobody gets missed. Everyone benefits. When you connect this to the bigger picture, it paints this image of collective power, shared benefit, turning a group into something much more than just its individual parts. How could understanding that shift how we approach collaboration or team efforts, even family? It suggests that real unity isn't just nice to have it actually activate something profound. Shared strengths.
Wow, that image. The anointing flowing from unified leadership, covering everyone, no exceptions, comprehensive empowerment. Okay, let's shift to the second big metaphor in verse 3. As the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion, for there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. This feels different, but just as powerful. Dew. What's the story with the dew of Hermon and Zion? What does that tell us about unity?
This one is all about refreshment, sustenance, especially crucial in that part of the world, right? Reverend Dr. Peters explains the geography. Mount Hermon, way up north, is high, often snow-capped, so it generates a lot of dew. This moisture, this life-giving dew, would often travel south, maybe carried on the wind, and settle on the much drier mountains around Jerusalem, Zion. It was this dew, he says, that moistened the otherwise parched earth of Zion, making it green and fruitful. In a dry land, dew wasn't just nice, it was a lifeline.
It really makes you think of those times when everything just feels dry, depleted, And the source highlights the practical timing. The dew came at nights to refresh the earth after the brutal beating of the sun to prepare it for the day ahead. So it wasn't just moisture, it was restoration, preparation for the next day's heat.
Exactly. So the parallel drawn is that unity produces the conditions for the health and abundance of the body. It's not just about getting things started. It's about recovery, resilience, keeping things going. The sermon says, unity refreshes us from the harshness of the environment we live in and prepares us for what is to come. You can think of unity as this collective nourishment, God's enriching and refreshing agent for his people, kind of shielding us from the daily grind and giving us strength for tomorrow.
That's a beautiful thought. We all face those brutal beatings of the sun, don't we? Work stress, bad news, personal stuff. So it prompts a question for you, listening. What environments in your life feel parched or harsh right now? And how could fostering this kind of unity in your family, your team, your community act, like that refreshing dew preparing everyone for what's next? It's like proactive collective resilience.
Yeah, it really invites us to think about how we can intentionally create those unified spaces that counteract the draining stuff and give us strength for the future.
These metaphors, the anointing oil and the dew, they really paint a full picture, don't they? Sacred empowerment that covers all, life-giving refreshment that sustains. Okay, so let's bring it all together. Thinking about everything from Reverend Dr. Peters' sermon on Psalm 133, what's the main takeaway? What are the most critical applications we should hold on to from this deep dive?
Well, I think two main applications really stand out. First, thinking back to that anointing oil in verse 2, Reverend Dr. Peters draws a direct line. Just as Aaron needed this anointing, to function effectively in the priesthood, unity is required to access the presence of God. Now, maybe more broadly, that suggests that this kind of deep collective connection and purpose, it's often the doorway to deeper spiritual insight or shared empowerment. It's essential, a gateway.
Okay, but that's what...
And second from the dew in verse 3, just as the dew moistened the otherwise parched earth, making it green and fruitful, so unity produces the conditions for the health and abundance of the body. It acts as that vital refreshing agent. It protects us from the harshness around us, gets us ready for challenges. So unity isn't just about peace, it's about vitality, life. And then the ultimate promise that ties it all together right at the end of this psalm, for there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. That huge ultimate blessing. It's directly connected to the presence of unity.
Wow. Okay. This deep dive has definitely shifted how I think about unity. It's not this soft, fuzzy idea anymore. It's tangible, powerful, an inhabited state, like you said, a radiating anointing that empowers, and this refreshing, life-giving dew that sustains. And all of it points to a commanded blessing from God. So here's the final thought to leave you with. If unity is described in these ancient words as being so potent, so necessary for that ultimate blessing of life forevermore, what might be the real cost, personally, communally, when it's missing, when we don't have it in our lives and our groups? And maybe more importantly, based on these insights, what steps could you actually take, maybe starting today, to intentionally build this kind of profound, active unity in your own circles? Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.